Okay, this is Teach the Children, and this is episode 34, and I am a disciple of Jesus Christ, and I'm making these videos so everybody can get to heaven or understand how to get to heaven when they die. And again, this is episode 34. I'm Ben Brooks, and I'm 84 years old. And I'm doing this Teach the Children so people, the parents, will learn to teach their children how to get to heaven when they die. And even if they don't know, they can learn themselves or they can teach someone else. And what I do with these episodes is I usually start at the beginning of teaching the children what God gave his servant Moses instructions as to what to say to the peoples, how to raise up their children and how to teach them. So I'm going to start with Deuteronomy, the King James Version today, the 6th chapter and the 7th verse. And this is what Moses wrote. And thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy children. Now he's talking about God's instruction, what God said out of his own mouth. And thou shalt talk of them when thou sittest in thy house, when thou walkest by the way, and when thou liest down, and when thou risest up. Now, that's the way you're supposed to teach your children about what God said. Nowadays and time, we got Jesus Christ to deal with. And we supposed to teach our children, sure, what God said. You're supposed to read it to them and teach it to them. But you're also supposed to read what Jesus said, because he is the New Testament. Moses was back in the Old Testament. Jesus Christ is in the New Testament. And Jesus Christ is the one that's going to get us to heaven if we get there. So you need to understand exactly what Jesus said. Now, again, this is the King James Version of the Bible. I'm Ben Brooks, and I'm a disciple of Jesus Christ, because those are instructions from Jesus. If you want to get to heaven, you're supposed to be his disciple. And I'm going to give you a real good lesson today about hear what Jesus said and understand what he said. So let's get started with it. From the book of John, the 6th chapter. No. I got to go back to Matthew, the 15th chapter and the 10th verse first, because that's the way I got it started here. And this is what Jesus said. And Jesus, this is what happened. Now Jesus, and he called the multitude and said unto them, hear and understand. See, Jesus walked the streets, he walked the highways, and he walked the roads, and he walked across fields, and he met people, and he taught them. Matthew 15 and 10, and he called the multitude and said unto them, hear and understand. Now, it was a lot of people scattered across them fields and places out there. And he called them all together because he was fixing to give a lesson, and he wanted them to hear what he had to say, and he wanted them to understand what he said, and he tried to make it plain. And I'm going to try today to make it even plainer than what he made it. That's going to be hard to do, but I'm going to try it. Now, from the King James again, John the 6th chapter and the 63rd verse. Now, I have done taught y'all everything behind these verses. And what I'm giving you right now is positive and straight to the point. John the 6th chapter and the 63rd verse. You need to hear and understand. Jesus said, it is the spirit that quickeneth, the flesh profit nothing. The words that I speak unto you, they are spirit and they are life. What Jesus said, he was born of a woman, born a baby just like we are. Down here in this flesh just like we are. What he's saying is here now, sure, he's a man just like we are. Now, he used the word the flesh profit nothing. But what he said was, the words that I speak to you, they are spirit and they are life. We all need to understand that it is the word of Christ that's going to get us into heaven, because his word carries life with it. They are life, his word. He said, my word, it is the spirit that quickeneth, the flesh profit nothing. The word that I speak unto you, they are spirit and they are life. Jesus' words are spirit and life. It is your spirit that causes you to do things. It is your spirit that causes you to do the right thing or the wrong thing. Your spirit causes that. Now, next we're going to go to King James again, John, the 13th chapter, and the 15th verse. This is what Jesus said. I have given you an example that you should do as I have done unto you. Understand that Jesus said, hear and understand. This is a very important episode right here, episode 34. John 13 and 15, Jesus said, I have given you an example that you should do as I have done unto you. Now, he didn't just tell them and teach them. He gave them an example. Okay, now we're going to John 8 and verse 31. This lesson is hear and understand. John 8 and 31. Then said Jesus to those Jews which believe on him, if ye continue in my word, then are ye my disciple indeed. Please understand something here. Jesus said to them in the beginning of this lesson, he called everybody together and said, hear and understand. Then he said, I have given you an example that you should do as I have done unto you. Now listen to what 31 said. Then Jesus said unto those Jews which believed on him, if ye continue in my word, then ye are my disciple indeed. In other words, if you continue in his word, and his words is life, everlasting life. Excuse me. Now we're going to John, the 13th chapter, and the 34th verse. Listen real carefully. A new commandment I give unto you, that ye love one another as I have loved you, that ye also love one another. Listen to verse 35. By this shall all men know that ye are my disciples, if ye have love one to another. It is mandatory that everybody on the face of the earth be a disciple. And you got to be a disciple to the point to where people can see you showing love to one another. It is something that you got to physically do. There are things you got to physically say. To be a disciple of Jesus Christ, you got to show it. You got to talk it, and you got to do it. Okay, now we're going to Matthew, the 28th chapter. There's 3 verses here, 18, 19, and 20. Matthew 28, 18, 19, and 20. I'm trying to get you to understand what Jesus is saying to the peoples. Now, this happened over 2,000 years ago, but it's still in effect in 2019. Right this minute, it's still in effect. Matthew 28 and 18. Hear and understand. And Jesus came and spoke unto them, saying, all power is given unto me in heaven and in earth. Then Jesus said, Go ye therefore, teach all nations, baptize them in the name of the Father, of the Son, and of the Holy Ghost. Teach them to observe all things whatsoever I command you, and lo, I am with you always, even to the end of the world. Jesus gave them, disciples, authority to go out into the world and make disciples. That's exactly what he done. Now listen to this. I want you to understand. That's what this lesson is all about today, is hear and understand. This is what Jesus said. Verily I say unto you, whatsoever ye shall bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatsoever ye shall loose on earth shall be loose in heaven. Now you see, Jesus gave them authority to go out into the world and make disciples. When you're making a disciple and teaching people things, you got a whole lot of teaching to do. You got a whole lot of words to say. And this is what he said, Verily I say unto you, whatsoever you shall bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatsoever you shall loose on earth shall be loose in heaven. He gave them disciples and them apostles authority to teach people. And he's backing it up. Whatever they say down here on earth is going to stand down here on earth, and it's also going to stand in heaven. In verse 19, Again I say unto you, that if two of you shall agree on earth touching anything that ye shall ask, it shall be done for them of my Father which in heaven. What Jesus is saying here, again I say, he sent those disciples out 2 by 2s. He didn't send nobody nowhere by themselves. It was always, even when he took on extra disciples, he sent them out 2 by 2s. In Matthew 18 and verse 19, Again I say unto you, if two of you shall agree on earth as touching anything that ye shall ask, it shall be done for them of my Father which is in heaven. So he wants at least 2 of y'all to be together at all times. Verse 20, For where 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, there am I in the midst of them. So you see what Jesus is doing here? He wants you to hear and understand what he is saying unto the people. Because ain't no way on earth you're going to be able to get to heaven when you die if you ain't doing things according to the way that our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ gave you instructions to do it. If you don't follow Christ's instruction, there's no way you're going to get to heaven, because there's a lot of books written in this nowadays and time, and everybody is following what somebody else is saying instead of following what Jesus said. Jesus' words are spirit and they are life. And that's all for today. Next time it'll be episode 35.